Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today we are going to be learning about subtracting. First of all, let's talk about what subtracting means. It means getting smaller. It is the opposite of adding. And if you remember back to first and second grade, you had fact families where you would have adding and subtracting. When you were subtracting, you always took the big number and put it first. That's because subtracting is finding a missing part. So when we're subtracting today, I want you to think in your head, we're getting smaller. We're taking away, okay? We're not getting bigger. We're not counting up. We are actually finding the difference. We're finding the smaller number, the missing part, okay? So what is subtracting? Subtracting is when you take away a part from a whole to find the missing part. Down here we have 12 minus 5 equals blank. Well, we're finding the difference between 5 and 12. There are two ways to do this. We can either put 5 in our head and count up to 12, or we can put 12 in our head and count down 5. Personally, I think it's a lot easier to count up because counting backwards can be really difficult for some of us. So what I'm going to do is put 5 in my head and count up to 12 to get the difference. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You stop when you get to the big number. The difference there is 7. So the answer here would be 7. Subtraction is finding that missing part from a whole, okay? Ooh. There we go. Total minus a part equals the missing part. So when we are thinking about adding, we're finding the total. But when we're subtracting, we take the total, the big number, and we subtract or we take away, we minus a part, and we find the missing part. All right, I think we accidentally skipped a slide, so we're going to go back. Here we go. Some of the subtracting terms that you need to know is the answer to a subtraction problem is called the difference. Okay, and I think that it's a lot easier to remember the word difference goes with subtraction because they're about the same length with their letters. We have difference and subtraction, just like how add and sum go together. They're both really short. Subtracting and difference are very long, so they go together. Difference is finding how are these two numbers different. You're subtracting a smaller part from the total to find the missing part. Okay, so when you're thinking about subtracting, we are finding the missing part, the missing number. Always, you need to remember the big number does go on top. Always, always, always. So if you have a word problem and you have two numbers, you're always going to put the big number on top and subtract that way. Now, this is the most important thing. It's our subtracting chant. This is what's going to help us know how to subtract. It goes, more on top, no need to stop. More on the floor, go next door and borrow some more. Numbers the same, zero's the game. So let's do it together. I know that you're just dying to. This helps us to look at the numbers, and we're going to ask ourselves these questions every time. Is there more on top or more on the floor? Okay. So if there's more on top, there's no need to stop. If there's more on the floor, we're going to go next door and borrow some more. And if the numbers are the same, then zero is the game. Zero is going to be the answer there. So we're going to keep that chant in mind as we go over a couple of different examples of subtracting today. Here are some words to be on the lookout for when you are subtracting. Okay, these are for your word problems. The ones that you're going to see the most are how many more than, and you're also going to see the word less or left, okay? So how many more than, that phrase, typically how many doesn't mean anything. But when you put how many more than, that means to subtract. And you're probably thinking, more, that sounds like an adding word. And you're right, it does. But what that statement is saying, how many more or how much more, you are comparing the two numbers. And when you're comparing two numbers, you are subtracting them, okay? If you are finding the missing part in a word problem, then you're going to have to subtract to find the missing part. So keep that in mind. Also, the word less or left, how much do they have left, is a very common word. We have a couple of other words, take away, minus, subtract, difference, change. Change is a big word when we talk about money. If you're getting your change back, like you pay the cashier with like a $5 bill, they have to subtract your total to get the change. So that would be finding the missing part. So when you are subtracting in word problems this week, I want you to think about those keywords. Think about what it means to subtract, what it means to find the missing part, Okay, so that's what you're doing. Now, let's actually go ahead and subtract. So we have 798 minus 235. Just like adding, you're going to want to line your places up. Ones, tens, hundreds. We always put the bigger number on top for subtraction, okay? For adding, it doesn't matter what order it's in because you're adding them. But for subtracting, if you put the small number on top, you can't subtract a big number from a small number. So you always put the big number on top. Even if it comes last in the word problem, you always find the bigger number and put it on top. That is something you've got to lock in your brain. Big number on top. Okay, so I put 798 on top because it's bigger than 235. Now, let's go ahead and subtract. This problem does not have regrouping, okay? This is just a straight up subtraction problem when there's more on top, no need to stop. So let's look at our ones place. We have an 8 minus 5. There's more on top, so there's no need to stop. Let's go ahead and subtract. 8 take away 5. Now, I can do this on my fingers. I could do 8 take away 5 equals 3. Or I could put 5 in my head and count up to 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. 3 is my answer there. Next, we have 9 minus 3. There's more on the top. No need to stop. 9 take away 3. Let's put 3 in our head and count up to 9. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 6. So 6 would be my answer for the tens. And then we have 7 minus 2. More on top, no need to stop. 7 minus 2, you could either do 7, take away 2, or you could do 2, count up to 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. My answer would be 5. So my total answer would be 563. Okay, so that's my difference here. Now, we are going to do 2 problems where we have to regroup. I need you to sit up extra tall for this. Pay extra close attention because regrouping with subtracting is not the same with adding. It is a lot more complicated. So this you don't want to miss, all right? What I want you to do, pause this video, go get a piece of paper and a pencil because I want you to write this problem down and do it with me, okay? I want us to do it together. So I'm going to wait for a second and then we'll start. All right, now that you have your pencil and your piece of paper, we're going to write down 813 minus 363. Make sure to put that subtraction sign because we are taking away. Notice how we're going to start in the ones place, just like always. Okay, we've got a 3 minus a 3. Number's the same. What does 3 take away 3? 3 minus 3 is 0. So 0 is going to go in our ones place. Now, we have 1 minus 6. If you think about this, there is 1. Can I take 6 away from that? No. If I have $1 and you come to me and you ask to borrow $6, do I have $6 to give you? No, I can't lend you that money. I can't let you borrow that because I don't have it. So this is where our chant comes into place. Is there more on top or more on the floor? That's a 1. 1 is less than 6. So there's more on the floor. There's more on the bottom number. Okay, more on the floor. So we've got to go next door. The 1 is going to go next door to the place right beside of it, the 8. Okay, so we're going to knock. Is anybody home? Yes, there's an 8 there. So what happens is the ones place, or the 1 in the tens place, goes to the hundreds place, the next door neighbor, and asks, can I please borrow 1 so that I can become a bigger number so I can share with the 6? Okay, so the 8 says sure. And so you would mark the 8 out, take 1 from him, we're taking 1 away from him and giving him to the next door neighbor. So if I take 1 away from 8, 8 minus 1, taking 1 away, 8 take away 1 is 7. I'm going to take that 1 and give it to the tens place, that 1 right there. And I put it right in front of the other one to make 11. So now I took the 1 from the 8, made this a 7, and took that 1 that I took away and put it right here in front of this one to make 11. Notice how I've marked these out. That's because I'm not looking at these numbers anymore to subtract. Now, instead of 1 minus 6, it's 11 minus 6. And we can do that because now there's more on top. Okay? We always have to get to a point where there's more on top. If there's not more on top, we can't subtract. 11 minus 6. This is where you run out of fingers. So it's important to know how to find the difference. Put 6 in your head and count up to 11. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 5 is the difference there. So 5 would go in our tens place. And then we're going to do 7, take away 3. 7, take away 1, 2, 3, leaves us with 4. Our answer here would be 450. Now, what I want you to think about is what happens if we have a number that has zeros in it. This is where it gets very, very complicated. Okay. So what is going to happen here? I need you to think to yourself, 0. What is 0? 0 stands for nothing. Okay. It's the smallest number that we're going to deal with. And I cannot take away from 0. So when you look at this number, I don't want you to say, oh, well, we could just do 0 minus 4 is 4. Or 0 minus 4 is 0. It's not. Because we have 0 on top, there's more on the floor, not on top here. So if there's more on the floor, we've got to go next door. That's the rule. More on the floor, go next door. So there's more on the floor here. 4 is bigger than 0. Whenever you see 0, you're going to regroup unless there's another 0 below it. And then you could do 0 minus 0. But most of the time, you're going to have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 below the 0. You can't subtract that. You've got to go next door. So the 0 in the ones place goes next door to the tens place and asks, hi, do you have anything that I could borrow? Could I borrow 1 from you? And the 0 in the tens place, can he give a 1 to the 0 in the ones place? No, because you can't borrow something from nothing. The 0 in the middle is worth nothing too. So the 0 in the middle can't help him out. So do you know what happens? Let me tell you what happens. The 0 in the tens place is such a good neighbor. He tells the ones place neighbor, he says, hold on, I have a neighbor down the hallway in the hundreds place, and they might let me borrow 1, so then I can share some with you. So he tells the ones neighbor, all right, you're going to wait just a second. In the tens place, the 0 in the tens place goes next door to the hundreds place and goes, is there anybody home? And then a 7 answers. And the 7 says, yes, I can give you 1. So what happens is the 7 lets the 0 beside of him borrow 1. So the 7's going to become a 6. We're going to take 1 from the 7, give it to the tens place. You have to give 1 next to the next door neighbor. You can't take the 1 from the 7 and give it to the ones place because then you're skipping the tens. Okay? The hundreds is going to give to the tens. Then the tens is going to give to the ones. So now that we have 10 in the tens place, we are going to be able to share with the ones. So now that we have a 10 there instead of a 0, the 0 in the ones place, when he knocks at the tens door, is there anybody home? There's a 10. We're going to mark out the 10. We're going to take 1 from him, make him a 9, and we're going to give that 1 to the 0 to become a 10. So now we have a way to subtract, okay? It's a lot of work, but we got there. 10 minus 4, if I have 10, take away 4, that leaves me with 6. Then we're going to do 9 minus 5, if I have 9, take away 5, that leaves me with 4. Notice how this is not 10 minus 5. We had to mark out that 10, and we had to take 1 from the 10, make him a 9, and then give it to the ones, so that way we could subtract the ones. So make sure you're marking out those numbers. 9 minus 5 is 4. Now we're going to do 6 minus 2 is also 4. So our answer here is 446. That is the difference, okay? So when you're subtracting, please make sure that you are showing your work. You have to write it down because you cannot do this in your head. Okay, you are also not allowed to use a calculator in 3rd grade because you're not allowed to use a calculator on the SOL test. So please do the work at home and show me your work by getting the right answer. Okay, that's how I'm going to know that you're doing the work, because if you're not, you're going to get the wrong answers or someone is helping you at home, because there's no way you can do this in your head without showing your work. So you need a pencil and paper for every single day this week. You need to show your work on every single problem to get the right answer, okay? Go watch my next 2 videos that show you exactly how to subtract real life problems with my hand and my pen, and I walk you through all the steps, how to cross out the zeros, how to do this whole thing again, but on real paper, okay? Good luck, guys. Let me know if you have any questions at all.